Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating, maybe sometimes uncomfortable part of Irish history. We're looking at the surprising alignment, really, between the Roman Catholic Church and the state. You think you might know the story, but, well, the deeper we go, the more layers we find. So, the big question, I suppose, for this deep dive is this. How did Ireland, a nation first imagined as, a true republic, no kings, no queens, no popes, no bishops, how did it end up with the Roman Catholic Church holding such immense power? Power that some have even described as, well, stronger than the state itself. Now, our focus today is really on the origins of this alliance. But it's important to remember, these early steps, they laid the groundwork for some major societal shifts later on. Shifts that, according to some sources, had truly awful consequences, particularly for women and children. Which makes you ask, right, is this legacy really just history? Or is it still somehow part of our present?
It's a really complex picture. And, what's striking is where it begins. It's not with popes or powerful cardinals pulling strings. No, it actually starts more than 200 years back with someone like Theobald Wolfe-Tone, an Irish revolutionary. Yeah. And his vision was, well, it was radical, a completely different Ireland.
Exactly. And to really get our heads around how these two sort of competing ideas, republicanism on one hand, church power on the other, didn't just clash, but actually kind of intertwined to shape the country.
Yeah.
We need to dig into those specific moments, don't we? The clever strategies, the unexpected deals. Let's unpack that. Okay. So Theobald Wolfe-Tone, his vision for Ireland was, well, truly revolutionary back then. He pictured a proper republic, a place where religion wouldn't divide people, where your loyalty wasn't to the church first, but just to being Irish, the common name of Irish men, as he put it. That was his Republican ideal. The majority rules, not some faction, not some elite group. He wanted to move past all that religious conflict to the 17th century, step into what he called the days of enlightenment.
And that, right there, is why he was seen as so incredibly dangerous. Not just by the British Crown, obviously, but by the Catholic Church, too. His plan, it was audacious. To go to revolutionary France, seek their military help to completely remake Ireland. That decision, that moment, it's absolutely pivotal. It marks a real turning point in how the Irish political landscape and the Catholic Church began this long, often troubled relationship.
It's amazing, isn't it, to think of Tone with this really radical secular vision heading off to France, a France that had just, completely turned itself upside down. When he got to Paris in 1796, French society was utterly changed. They'd executed the king, the most powerful Catholic king. That sent absolute shockwaves through the papacy. You have to remember the Catholic Church wasn't just about souls. It was a massive earthly power, too, with land influence.
Oh, absolutely. And the French Revolution horrified the Catholic hierarchy. The massacres, priests being executed, church lands confiscated. They saw everything crumbling. Their spiritual empire, yes, but also the whole idea of monarchy seemed under attack, which makes Tone's mission to Paris even more, audacious, as you said. He's there basically to convince the French Directory, the government at the time, specifically Lazare Carnot, a really senior figure, their sort of foreign minister, to launch a full-scale invasion of Ireland, all to set up an independent Irish republic. And we even have evidence of how persuasive he was, his own handwriting, believe it or not, on what's called his first memorandum from February 1796. It's sitting right there in the French National Archive. A huge document in Irish Republican history.
And he knew how to frame it, didn't he? He spent the first part of that memo really playing up the benefits for France. Attack England directly through Ireland. He described the Irish people as being fired from their infancy in a hereditary hatred and abhorrence of the English, giving the French exactly what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, but here's a really fascinating twist, or maybe a compromise. Tone himself, in that document, he explicitly links Irish nationalism with the Catholics for the French. He literally says, the Catholics are the majority. They hate England. You can count on them to rise. So it does make you wonder, doesn't it, about the gap between his ideal erasing religious difference and the practical steps he felt he had to take.
That's a really good point. So he makes this pitch. What happens then? He's waiting for the Directory to decide. You can almost imagine him, can't you?
Yeah.
Pacing those gardens at the Palais de Luxembourg, feeling pretty down, weeks turning into months, nothing happening after pouring his heart into that memo. And then suddenly, bang, the official comes out, gives them the message.
Yes.
The Directory will send an expedition. They'll help start a revolution, create an Irish republic. And Tone genuinely believed everyone would join in, Protestants, Catholics, dissenters, united by this French intervention.
Meanwhile, back in Ireland, things were tense. Both the Catholic Church leadership and the British Crown, they knew something was brewing. They could feel it. Revolution was in the air. And for the Catholic Church, remember, this was a really desperate time. The penal laws, Those awful discriminatory laws had basically stripped them of wealth, influence, power. Catholics couldn't vote, couldn't sit in the Irish Parliament. That was all run by the Protestant elite. They had very few rights.
Right, but then the French Revolution happens, and suddenly the whole political calculus, as the source puts it, it shifts for the British government. All of a sudden, they need an ally, someone who actually holds sway over millions of Irish Catholics. They'd use the stick of the penal laws for ages, right? Now, maybe it was time for the carrot.
Exactly. And we're not just guessing here. There's this remarkable document found in the library at St. Patrick's College, Maynooth. It's a letter from Archbishop Troy, dated January 1794. And he's petitioning the Lord Lieutenant, the King's representative in Ireland, to set up a seminary in Ireland. It just shows how astute these church leaders were. They saw an opportunity, and they knew how to ask for a high price for their loyalty.
And what was the big worry driving this request? Well, the letter spells it out.
Yeah.
The Catholic bishops were deeply concerned because historically about 400 Irish priests in training, seminarians, they were educated in France. And now, with the revolution, they were terrified these young men would catch the contagion, these dangerous new ideas, freedom, equality, fraternity, liberty.
Yeah.
They absolutely couldn't have those ideas spreading back in Ireland.
Troy's argument to the Lord Lieutenant was, frankly, brilliant, skillful, maybe even cunning. He basically played on the government's own fears. He warned that these students would imbibe such ideas and bring them back, leading to, well, chaos in Ireland, a reproduction of the conditions that now obtain in France. A radical clergy, he implied, would mean a radical population. It's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? A top Catholic archbishop asking the British government to pay out of public money for a Catholic seminary. But that funding, it really hits home the point we're exploring, doesn't it? This shared, very practical fear started to bring these old enemies together.
And what's astonishing is how quickly the British government, the Protestant British state, agreed. They funded it. Maynooth. It was a huge concession to Catholicism in Ireland at the time.
Yeah.
A really clear sign that their strategy was changing.
And connecting it back to Tone, the fears of the church and the crown, they weren't wrong. They were actually well-founded, because just a year after Maynooth got its funding, in 1796, boom, a massive French fleet, 15,000 soldiers, turns up in Bantry Bay.
But it ended in heartbreak for Tone. They were so close, just miles off the coast. But then these ferocious storms blew up, completely scattered the fleet, forced them to turn back to France. You can feel Tone's agony in his diaries. He wrote, "We were near enough to throw a biscuit ashore." Imagine that, so close to realizing this massive dream, and the weather just snatches it away.
Yeah, tragically, that wasn't the end of the story, though. 2 years later, 1798, the French did manage to land some troops, but the rebellion that followed was brutally put down by the crown forces, and crucially for our story, it was roundly condemned by the Catholic hierarchy. They wanted no part of it.
And Tone's dream. It died with him, really. He was captured, court-martialed, sentenced to death. Before they could execute him, though, he took his own life in prison, slit his throat. A truly tragic end.
So the Republican threat from the perspective of the crown and the church hierarchy was crushed, vanquished. And the Catholic Church, well, they now had Maynooth, their own state-funded seminary, which eventually became the biggest in the entire world. That moment, that whole sequence of events, it really marks the beginning of this very unlikely, very pragmatic partnership between the British crown and the Catholic Church, a relationship that lasted incredibly for over 100 years.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it's really clear how this surprising team-up between the church and the state in Ireland actually happened. It wasn't really about shared beliefs, was it? It was much more about a shared fear, a practical fear of revolution, of these radical new ideas that push these, well, seemingly total opposites together.
Exactly. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Given that this really deep, century-long relationship between the church and the crown started with such a clear strategic aim, basically, to contain ideas of liberty they found dangerous, what might that tell us? What does it suggest about the complex ways that power and fear and just shared interests can actually shape a whole nation's identity, its institutions, perhaps even right up to today?